We went through this once before. I want to just briefly walk through it again today because I want to get us back from 13 out. Boy, it gets to be something as a real eye-opener. So I want to read first this morning again, just a part of chapter 11, starting verse 1. I was given a reed like a measuring rod and was told, go and measure the temple of God and the altar with its worshipers, but exclude the outer court, do not measure it because it has been given to the Gentiles. They will trample on the holy city for 42 months. And you'll remember we've got the mid-trib right here. And 42 months is also 1,260 days. It's also times and a half time. And in this period of time, there will be no Jews in Jerusalem. And that's what this is referring to. That the outer court will be given over to the Gentiles. And they will trample the holy city for 42 months, and I will appoint my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days clothed. They are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands, and they stand before the Lord of the earth. Now, you got 42 months for trampling the city, 1,260 days for those guys, because these guys start here. And this whole thing unfolds like, I don't know, y'all guys stream episodes or series or anything that you follow? This, you could make a movie out of this. It's incredible. They will start here, causing all kinds of trouble for who will become the Antichrist. And remember, the Antichrist isn't revealed until he does this. So you've got a world leader. They can see right away. God's told them he's a servant of Satan and so on. And they go out with their message. We'll talk about it in a little bit. For this period of time, and they upset the world with this message. We'll keep reading for a minute. If anyone tries to harm them, fire comes down from their mouths and devours their enemies. This is how anyone who wants to harm them must die. And we talked about the fact that the fire from heaven and fire comes down from heaven. And then in verse 6, they have the power to shut up the heavens so it will not rain. And these 2 things can be tied to 2 people, and that's Moses and Elijah. Moses brought on the plagues. Elijah brought down rain. He also stopped rain. Those kinds of things. A lot of speculation about it. We talked about all of that. My take is it's going to be 2 prophets. I don't know that it's Elijah and Moses. It could easily just be 2 people that God's appointed for that time. But we know it's going to be 2. They have the power to shut up heaven so it will not rain. They prophesy, have power to turn water into blood, bring every kind of plague. This is why Moses and Elijah are typically thought of as the 2 prophets. Also, and I'm not going to go into all of that again. Now, when they have finished their testimony, the beast that comes up from the abyss will attack them and overpower and kill them. Their bodies will lie in a public square of the great city, which is figuratively called Sodom and Edom, where also the Lord was crucified. This is clearly Jerusalem. So at the end of their thing, this is why we know this is in the beginning. Because at the end of the tribulation, if they were 3.5 years here, at the end, Christ would have returned. And it's also why one is referred to as 42 months and 1,260, which I have reversed, but that's okay. So we know the 2 witnesses are here. Now, death comes up, the beast out of the bottomless pit, if you will, and will overpower and kill them. Their bodies will be in the public square of the great city, where also their Lord was crucified. That's Jerusalem. So in the great square, the center of Jerusalem at the time, they're going to be put on public display, kill them. Their bodies will public square on display. 3.5 days. And then it says, some from every people, tribe, language, and nation will gaze on their bodies and refuse them burial. So they like them being on display. And we talked about the fact that it's probably a lot of people are going to see this on television. So it worldwide wouldn't surprise me, because verse 10 says, the inhabitants of the earth will gloat over them, and will celebrate by sending each other gifts because these two prophets have tormented those who live on earth. So the inhabitants of the earth will gloat on them. So these two people, this isn't just two folks in Jerusalem rousing up some Jewish zealous group. They're affecting worldwide, and they're annoying. They're aggravating, they're agonizing, John the Baptist, right? Of course, he lost his head over it. But when we start to tell the world they're wrong and we're right, that irritates everybody to the point where they want to do violence to you. And this is going to be a major theme, right, all through here. Now, meanwhile, what else is going on? Big thing that's going on during the early days of the tribulation. Big major thing.
Temple is rebuilt.
Very good. It's either been rebuilt. Oh, you are sharp. That's what I get private review. They say, yeah, the temple is either rebuilt and they begin sacrificial worship right here, or it's whatever period of time in here, and then they have sacrificial worship. In either case, in Jerusalem, the Jews are sort of having their own way. They have a peace agreement with the person who will become the Antichrist. They're rebuilding the temple. They're starting back sacrificial worship. Two of their people are going all over the world, irritating the dickens out of everybody with the gospel message. And this goes on right up to this point right here. Now, meanwhile, the guy here who's going to become recognized as the Antichrist, but is not yet, when he signs his, he doesn't have "Hello, my name is Antichrist" on his party tag. He's been struggling with battling back and forth with Egypt. He had one battle, he won, hauled off all their gold and whatnot. Now there's another, he's going to have another conflict in a little bit here. But he goes down here to Egypt the first time, about the beginning of the tribulation period, has a victory, hauls off treasure, all these sorts of things. They're rebuilding. The life is good, except these two guys are just upsetting the whole balance of things, and it's getting to the point where the world doesn't want them around anymore. This guy, comes down somewhere in here again because the Egyptians have gotten out of line, and I'm going to set them straight once and for all, and goes down there and they set him straight. And he loses big time. And he's mad, and he blames it on those two guys and those Jews. And he goes screaming back mid-trib, and he does a couple of things. One is the abomination and cause of desolation is set up in the temple, and he kills these two guys. So you can, if you wanted to really get down there, you could say this is a day and a half, and I guess it'd be a day and 3/4. But anyway, you could have a 3-day thing here where halfway through it is where the abomination is set up. They kill these two guys, big party, big celebration. What else happens? I bet I don't have that one up there. Yeah, kills 2 witnesses, sets up the abomination. Yes, I do have it up there.
Drives the Jews out.
The Jews flee. Yeah, and we're going to read about that in a minute. The Jews flee. So now the Jews are gone, the 2 witnesses are gone. What happens? The Gentiles overrun Jerusalem and take Jerusalem over, which they have in the past. There's been plenty of time in Jerusalem's history where there were no Jews in the city. It was being ruled by Ottoman Turks and so on and so on, the Ottomans, so on and so on. Anyway, we'll keep reading. Body line, public square, then they give gifts to prophets. But after 3.5 days, the breath of life from God enters them, and they stood on their feet, and terror struck those who saw them. Then they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here," and they went to heaven in a cloud while their enemies looked on. Wow. Wouldn't that get your attention? I mean, wouldn't you think, wait a minute. At that very hour, there was a severe earthquake, and 1/10 of the city collapsed, with 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake. And the survivors were terrified and gave glory to God in heaven. So there are still people believing at that time, or decided to believe at that time. I mean, what's the old joke? I sent a helicopter, I sent a boat. How many of these things do you need to see before you go, ooh, Um, so all of this happens in this little 3.5, 4 day period right in the middle of the tribulation, which is why, do I have that up here? What do we call, generally, what do they call this period of the tribulation? The second half.
Great.
The Great Tribulation.
Nothing
And
great about it, but,
no, that's right, yeah. And we'll see references to that later. Yeah, this is called the Great Tribulation in here. The first 3.5 years, the Jews lived in peace. They ran the city. They have sacrificial worship. They rebuilt the temple. He comes back, blames it all on the Jews, drives the Jews out, and the Jews that are smart flee. Sets up the abomination that causes desolation in the temple. But all of that's going on, and this is where he is unveiled, if you will, or revealed as the Antichrist, and where he begins to elevate himself above God and telling everybody I'm the solution to everything and so on. Earthquake. The second woe is past, third's coming. Okay, and we'll get to chapter 12 here and just briefly go through. I'm sure we've gone through all this before, but it helped me a lot to go back through it all again, just get us on the same page. So, chapter 12, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars in her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. And we know this to be nation of Israel. Well, nation, I don't know about it. The Jews. Who's going to give birth? The sun, the moon, the 12 stars, and so on. This is Abraham's descendants, so on. Anyway, about to give birth. So the Jews will bring, Christ came to us through the Jews, through Abraham and his descendants, and so on. So about to give birth to Christ. Satan, of course, doesn't want that to happen. Another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that it might devour her child the moment he was born. And of course, the red dragon is Satan. And somewhere on here, I think I've got that. Yeah, I've got it written down there. He was about to devour the child. And we talked about this. She gives birth to Christ. And the next thing you know, Herod is asking the Magi, where is he? And then he goes out and, 2-year-old, and they try to kill all the firstborns. She gives birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all nations with an iron scepter, and that is coming. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. So this is when Christ, of course, was taken up in front of the apostles. The woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God, where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. The woman hasn't fled yet. That's coming. And that's this mid-trib thing. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. Now, I have a question for you. You're a spirit being. You have an eternal existence. Whether it's good or bad, you have an eternal experience. How do they go to war? What was it? One that Michael that was wrestling over Moses' body, I think is what it says in there, with another evil spirit, Satan. I don't know. I don't have an answer, but I'm thinking they go to war. And we read that. They go, oh yeah, the spirits are at war. They throw furniture at each other. I don't know. I don't want to know. The Lord hasn't revealed that to me. But it is curious. What's war like in the spirit world? Just amazing.
Do they throw cast spells on each other or something?
I guess.
I mean, if you're a spirit being, how do you pick up a physical sword?
Yeah.
Or spear, or whatever it might be?
Or shout, bad. Your mother wears combat boots and things like that. A pox on your camel. I don't know. How do spirit beings fight? The battle in heaven. What? Boy, you just wonder. Wow. Anyway, there was a battle in heaven, and Satan was right there with him. That's the other thing. The guy is Satan is determined that he's right, and he will overcome all this, even though he knows the Word of God inside out. He knows God personally, talks to God, all of that. Here's a big battle, and he fights to the end, but he does not prevail.
So he's an optimist.
Okay. I was going to go with obstinate, but yeah, optimist. That's a good. Those evil optimists. You got to watch those people. But yeah, it's like wow. But he was not strong enough, which is a good sign, by the way. And they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth and his angels with him. That has not happened yet. Heaven help us literally when it does. So we have the 1260 days. They drive out the Jews. And then apparently in this same period of time, that's what I say, putting a movie together would be interesting. Here comes Satan. I mean, here comes the Antichrist, sets up this. Then Satan is cast out. And all the demons, and there are demons that, it's incredible. I get into that, we won't get done. But all the demons and Satan, down to earth. There's no more talking to God, no more negotiating. You're done. Get down there. You're out of heaven for permanently. And then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of God and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. And I think that's something, too, we need to remember, and you see it in the book of Job. Satan isn't just up there talking to God about how's the weather. He's up there trying to discredit all of God's servants. And there are plenty of them that probably deserved it. I mean, we've had plenty of fallen Christians, or at least folks who say they're Christian. But yeah, he's up there. Christ said Satan roars about like a lion, seeking who he can devour. The guy is a pure enemy, totally. And yet, when he gets near somebody, he can make you believe he's your best friend. So we got to watch it. But anyway, he's been hurled down. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of his testimony. They did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Now, we're going to stop there a second because there's another thing that happened we talked about early on. See, that's the problem with trying to come up with a chronology here. It's all over the place. We talked about something else earlier. So this is the end of the two witnesses right there. What's this the beginning of then? Yeah. Yeah. I was following along the Jews. Look at the Jews have been cast out. They got rid of the witnesses. But what does God do? Right there. He sends out 144,000 messengers. So this is the other thing that's going on right in here. And if I remember back, it was chapter 10, I think. He was on Mount of Olives and commissioned them from there, if I remember right. The 144,000 gets sent out. The Jews are gone out of Jerusalem. The witnesses have been killed. That's not stopping God. Satan thinks it is, but it isn't. And he sends out the 144,000 who during this period of time will be martyred along with millions of folks who will believe their message. And it comes on the heels of everything that happened in Jerusalem that day, by the way. I mean, they'll point back to that for sure, that God brought those two back to life, just like, Jesus, God raised Jesus from the dead. God raised those two. And we're going to have that whole campaign going on during the time that Satan is going to be working with the Antichrist and another person, which we'll get to meet, the false prophet. And they are going to wreak havoc during the Great Tribulation. And these 144,000 during the worst time ever in the world are going to be out with a gospel message. It's going to be incredible. So, 12, therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury because he knows that his time is short. Now, there's a good question for you. He's filled with fury because he knows his time is short. He knows his time is short. He knows the Bible inside out. He knows the book of Revelation. He knows all of these things. If you know you're not going to succeed, why would you be in fury because you know your time is short? Two explanations I can give you. One, you want to cause as much damage as you can before you're out of there. Two, and I think more probable, that's what God thinks. That's not what I think. He knows his time is short because he knows the Bible. But in his mind, he believes, as good as he is, that he can overcome these things and still prevail over God in the end. Just, that's Wes there. Find that in the second book of Opinions. So he knows his time is short. When the dragon saw that he had been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child, because that's the Jews, right? He was hurt. So this is why we say he was hurled to earth, and he pursues those who gave birth to Christ. That's the Jews. The Antichrist is going to have them executed, driven out of the city, so on and so on. So we know Satan is here, ready to do his stuff. There's some, we don't really know for sure. It's certainly he's active here. Some say that somewhere in this period is when he comes down, and that last 6 or 8 months of the tribulation period is the worst ever. So take your pick. But here it says, he pursued the woman who had been given birth to the male child, and she was given the 2 wings of a great eagle so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness, where she'd be taken care of for a time, times, and a half time, out of the serpent's reach. Well, if he's not in heaven anymore, I would argue that he got thrown down right here at the mid-trib point. So there, right in here, there's a host of things happening almost simultaneously. And we know these guys go down, we've talked about it before, they go down south in the land of Edom is most people's speculation, Petra, those kinds of things. And you'll remember when we were talking about how the tribes and things were going to get judged and the Antichrist was going to have his way and all of that, that they said, however, God's going to protect the Amorites, the Moabites, and the Edomites. And we said, well, that's the country of Jordan, who will probably take some neutral stand or something in all this. And that's where the Jews go to be protected. And see, it says, time, and a half times, out of the serpent's reach. Well, this is your time, and a half times right here. This is a 3.5 years right here. They're going to flood out of Jerusalem down into this area. Picture news footage, UN tent camps and things of that nature.
When you say Petra's not that big of a place, is it?
Pretty good size. Now,
would it have room for all of Israel, or
well, again, they don't. When people Petra, they think of Indiana Jones and the the Treasury building and so on, and that's a small part of it. You can walk just in that area going up through the ruins. I think it's like 5 miles, 6 miles. The hike down to the temple is like 2 miles or more over Roman road, which they all brag about. Oh, that's the original Roman road. It's awful because it's all these round stones you have to walk on the whole way down. But I don't think it's just Petra. I think it's that area down there. They're going to get away from Jerusalem as far as they can, and the furthest south you can get in Jordan is probably where they're going to end up. You can get out in, and again, my geography's getting a little squirrely now, but the Wadi Rum, have you ever heard of it, the Wadi? So a Wadi is a giant, over here we call them arroyos. Over there they call them Wadis. And the Wadi Rum is the size of the Grand Canyon. Spectacular. We had a chance, Sherry was with me fortunately, we had a chance. We camped overnight with a Bedouin group in the big tents and the camels outside and the whole, that was wonderful. It was great. There's lots of land down there that's vacant as all get out. So you set up your relief tents and relief camps and all those sorts of things. And I'm guessing that's what it'll be like. keep out of the serpent's reach. Then from his mouth, this is Satan now, the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away with a torrent. Ooh, so a big flood's going to go through Jordan and sweep all the Jews out to sea. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out. What is going on here? See, I don't think we got this far down before. So we have a spirit being spewing out water to flood the... What? Any ideas? Going once. Water is a message, and he's using it to sort of poison the Jews. And again, this isn't a great one-to-one correlation, but I'll give you an idea. What was Hitler spewing out practically the entire time he was in charge of Germany? Everything evil about the Jews. Everything. And he was doing it worldwide. Now, he was targeting his people, but it was a message, people were hearing it everywhere. They didn't have to just live in Germany. They're inferior. They're poison. They spread disease. They this, they that. Every bad thing you can think of, so that nobody wants to be associated with the Jews. And oh, by the way, talking about the Hamas approach to things, let's get the Arab world all upset, and if you see a Jew, kill him. That was what the Hamas was doing. This is what you're going to have with Satan. These people need to be eliminated off the face of the earth. That's his water washing them away. These people need to be eliminated, blah, blah, blah. But it says the earth absorbed this, and the Jews were not harmed by it. So it was a message out there bad about the Jews, but they're essentially hiding in Jordan, if you will, or wherever that particular place happens that God takes them. They're staying out of it, so to speak. The real trouble are these people, these 144,000, and what are they? Jewish. And they're going around the world proclaiming a gospel separate and totally opposite of what this is. They get killed. They get murdered. And the Bible tells us, and we'll read it some more, tens of millions are going to die because they accept Christ during this time. That's the flood that's going out. It's not water, and he's not trying to wash them out of Jordan or something. It says 17, then the dragon was enraged at the woman. Now he's really hot. And went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring. Who are her offspring? Those who keep God's commands and hold fast their testimony about Jesus. And this is what we were talking about a second ago. It's not so much that he's going to execute, slaughter hundreds of millions of Jews, but he's going to take it out. He's going to take his wrath out on those who accept Christ and hold to God's commands. That's who's going. It's going to be a very, bloody time for those who accept Christ and those who proclaim the gospel. And then I want to read out of Zechariah 13 for a minute. I'm in verse 13, chapter 13, verse 1. On that day, a fountain will be opened to the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to cleanse them from sin and impurity. On that day, I will banish the names of the idols from the land, and they will be remembered no more, declares the Lord Almighty. I will move both the prophets and the spirit of impurity from the land. And if anyone still prophesies, their father and mother to whom they were born will say to them, you must die, because you have told lies in the Lord's name. Then their own parents will stab the one who prophesies. Lovely. On that day, every prophet will be ashamed of their prophetic vision. They will not put on a prophet's garment of hair in order to deceive. Each will say, I am a prophet. I am not a prophet. I am a farmer. The land has been my livelihood since my youth. If someone asks, what are these wounds in your body? They will answer, the wounds I was given at the house of my friends. What the heck is going on here? These are the folks that are out spreading lies, helping Satan, rather than the truth. And Christ returns, cleanses the land, including all these Jews that are down south. He's going to get rid of the evil ones, if you will, cleanse the land, and set things straight when he returns at the end of the, and it says, awake sword against my shepherd, against the man who is close to me, declares the Lord Almighty. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. He's going after the false prophets. And I will turn my hand against the little ones. In the whole land, declares the Lord, 2/3 will be struck down and perish, yet 1/3 will be left in it. And so this is telling us 2/3 of the Jewish population will die by the time Christ returns. This third I will put into the fire, and I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people, and they will say, the Lord is our God. So the tribulation period, it's punishment. It's also a refining time. And this will tell Christ who really has faith in him and who doesn't, sort of thing. And we know that at the end of that period, we've studied all of this before, the transformation that occurs in Jerusalem, the transformation that occurs with the Jews when they realize he is the true Messiah, the transformation of the world who realizes they are to be elevated, and the Jews suddenly are elevated, and so is all going to happen at the end of all of this. Let me check one last thing. I think that's all I wanted to. Yeah. So I know we had done a lot. Oh, I do have one other thing to read. I know we've done a lot in review, but I want to get us back on the same page. So here we're mid-trib. We have Israel getting driven out, the abomination being set up, Satan being cast down, a lot going on. Christ told them about this in Matthew chapter 24, 9 to 27. Matthew 24, verses 9 to 27. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. He's talking about the Jews. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. And this is what he's going to cleanse out at the end of the tribulation period. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And that's going to be a real part of the gospel message. Today, we said before, we live in this age of free grace. We accept Christ and we go about live our lives. You're going to have to stand. You're going to have to take on the opposition. You're going to have to be unwavering when they're attacking you verbally or physically, and so on. It's going to be a different kind of gospel environment. Will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all the nations, and then the end will come. And here's your gospel proclaimers to the whole ends of the earth, this 144,000. And of course, it isn't just them. I mean, it is, but it isn't, because if you see that they're right and you're wrong, the next thing you want to do, and you accept Christ, you want to, your parents, your friends, your whoever. So there's a lot of people actually spreading the gospel news, but the 144,000, of course, are at the front end. And the gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world, and then the end will come. And that's what Christ is talking about. This is going to be going on. The Jews are going to be down here. The Antichrist is going to be here with his abomination and all the bad things he does, which we'll look at starting next week. Christ then returns, a whole host of things happen. And that's what Jesus is trying to tell them right here. So, when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation, mid-trib, spoken of through the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let no one on the housetop go down to take anything out of the house. Let no one in the field go back to get their cloak. He unveils that thing, you hightail it immediately. Don't wait around, because he's going to come after you with a violent... Anyway, how dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath. See, that's the other thing. We don't know the date. That could be Christmas Eve. We don't know, We don't. Everybody focuses on it's a 7-year period, and this is the middle of it. It could be a Wednesday, it could be Sunday, it could be, the middle of an earthquake, or middle of a hurricane, or who knows. So he says, pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be a great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, unequaled, and never to be equaled again. It's really it gets horrible. This is why they call it from there forward the Great Tribulation. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. At that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there he is, do not believe it. And so that's what all this turmoil, confusion, all that stuff going on, but you're going to have all these false prophets running around going, hey, don't worry, I got this. If we go to Montana, we'll be safe, all that junk, That's the news. Don't believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you ahead of time. And an indication of what we're going to see during that period. That whole 7 years, the last 3.5 for sure. Things we've not seen before. Signs, wonders in the sky, powers that we haven't, because all of the demons have been tossed down to earth. You think talking to the dead is something you wait and see what's coming. So it says, if possible, can even fool the elect. And see, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, there he is out in the wilderness, do not go out. Or here he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as lightning that comes from the east is visible, even in the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. And that's where we're going to end today. We're going to pick up chapter 13 next week. And that's the Antichrist.